Janitor cleaned HR of a road lab for 15 years. White professors mocked his village math until he solved the equation that made him owner of Africa's first quantum tech empire. 3 a.m. in Boston, the night wind howled across the Charles River, making the glass walls of HRVRD's physics building tremble slightly. The whole building was swallowed by darkness except for one cold, white light still glowing in the third-floor quantum optics lab. At the end of the hallway, a figure slowly pushed a cleaning CART 4-way RDSA room band, his deep brown skin gleaming like bronze under the fluorescent lights, his work pants worn thin at the knees, his rubber-soled shoes silent against the marbly floor. He stopped, lifted a damp rag, and began wiping down the massive glass wall outside the lab. The wall was transparent, like an aquarium, revealing a world of blinking machines, tangled fiber optics, and a white board covered in scribbled equations. SA room moved CA refully, as if afraid to wake the sleeping machines. Halfway through, he froze. Most of the white board had been erased, but faint traces of dry erase marker lingered on the glass like cracks in dried riverbeds. One equation stood out clear: RLY. Psi T equals below it, scrawled in messy English, still unstable. Decoherence too high. Impossible in real-world conditions. Say room STA read at the symbols, and suddenly, his eyes lit up like stars flashing in the desert night. He reached into his chest pocket and pulled out a tiny pencil stub, then dug an old ledger from the CART's hidden compartment. The ledger was from Mali, its faded French text reading March de Tombouctou, Comptabilite, Timbuktu Marquette, accounts. He crouched low, turning his back to the hallway security camera, and began scribbling numbers and symbols onto the paper. The pencil scratched softly, like the whisper of wind over Saharan dunes. His fingers were rough, cracked from cleaning chemicals, white powder still wedged under his nails, but now, they danced across the page with the precision of a drummer playing the gem. 20 minutes passed. The ledger was now covered in dense calculations. At the bottom, he wrote a single, elegant equation. Psi T equals E caret, it, cos, lambda T plus phi, E caret, gamma T superscript 2, beside it, in small Bombare script, he added, Keen Karen, Keenterin. When the wind rises, the sand dances, but the spirit remains. He closed the ledger like it was something sacred. Standing up, he glanced around. The hallway was empty. On tiptoe, he tore out the page, folded it into a tiny paper boat, and slipped it through the lab's air vent. In 15 years, this was the 137th time he'd done this. By the time SA Room got back to his tiny APA regiment in South Boston, dawn hadn't yet broken. The room was BA Relay 200 SQUA refit, just a bed, a table, a stove. On the wall hung a yellowed old map of Timbuktu. On the table sat a wooden sand tray, the only thing his father had left him. He peeled off his work clothes, wiped his face with a damp towel, then lit an old oil lamp. The flickering light deepened the wrinkles around his eyes. He reopened the ledger, studying the equation again. He knew it wasn't just any quantum problem, it was the core challenge of quantum entanglement stability, how to keep two entangled particles linked in real-world conditions, with noise, temperature shifts, electromagnetic interference. The world's top labs had spent a decade on it, with little progress. But SA Room knew the answer had been hiding in his homeland's sand all along. He closed his eyes, memories rushing in like the Niger River's current. As a boy, his father had been one of Timbuktu's last sand sages. Every dry season, villagers would gather around the sand tray, watching as his fingers traced spirals, ripples, and intersecting lines. Look, his father would say, the sand dances in the wind, seemingly random, but every grain moves in rhythm. They don't match, but they meet. This idea, not perfect symmetry, but dynamic harmony, was shockingly close to quantum uncertainty. SA Room grew up between Arabic numbers and Bombare proverbs, using sand to map stars and drumbeats to time crops. At 18, he'd Renetta HA road visiting Cholet spot with a paper on traditional rhythm systems and signal processing. But his visa got tangled, his Cholet ship vanished, and after years of odd jobs, translator, delivery guy, he ended up as the night janitor. For 15 years, he'd pushed that CART, listening to professors debate quantum decoherence, Bell's inequality, topological quantum computing. He didn't know the English terms, but he heard the logic. He read with his EARS, calculated with sand, recorded in ledgers. He never spoke, just mopped floors, emptied trash. Cleaned coffee machines. The next morning, 3 white professors huddled around the white board, arguing. We have to drop non-linear modulation, said Professor Smith, adjusting his glasses. Thermal noise is drowning it. But without phase modulation, entanglement BA relay lasts a millisecond, snapped Jenkins, the younger one. We'll lose DOD's next funding round. Maybe a new clean setup, the third professor muttered. Just then, the squeak of cleaning CART wheels echoed at the door. SA Room stepped in, head down, emptying the corner trash bin. Jenkins smirked. Hey, buddy, you always say the wind knows the answer, right? Why don't you solve this for us? The others chuckled. Smith waved a hand dramatically. Yeah, our village mathematician got any genius ideas today? SA Room didn't look up. Maybe you should try nonlinear phase modulation with dynamic feedback. Silence. What did you say? Smith frowned. SA Room lifted his gaze. Nonlinear phase modulation. But not fixed, adjusted in real time based on environmental noise. Jenkins burst out laughing. Oh, like when you said to sync the laser to drumbeats and fried a $200,000 detector. Remember that was an accident, SA Room said quietly. The rhythm was right. Your oscillator wasn't. Oh, now the oscillator's the problem, Smith sneered. Should we make you chief scientist? The lab erupted in laughter. SA Room said nothing, just kept mopping as he backed Tawa RD the door. Before leaving, he glanced at the white board. The equation was still there, untouched. That night, SA Room didn't go home. He sat on a bench in the campus RK, STA ring at Hrva RD Spires. His phone buzzed, a text from Amma, the Ghanaian nurse he'd met at a free clinic. She'd bandaged his hands once, burned by cleaning chemicals. She understood his silence. How was today? She asked. They laughed again, he replied. Called it village math. But your math, she wrote back, can trace the path of STARS. He smiled. His father's words echoed, true knowledge isn't in books, it's in people. He stood up, walking Tawa RD the lab's back entrance. The equation was still waiting. And this time, he wasn't just the guy who wiped glass. He pulled a fresh pencil from his pocket and whispered, tomorrow I'll write my name. The night wind brushed past him, CA-ring whispers from the Sahel. When SA Room got back to his apartment, the rain had already STA route. Boston's autumn drizzle was always cold and Shah RP, like needles pricking at his collar. He peeled off his soaked work clothes, toweled his hair dry, then pulled a wooden box from deep inside his closet. Inside was a small pouch of yellow sand, brought all the way from the ground outside his family home in Timbuktu. Refully, he poured it onto the wooden sand tray on his table, smoothing the surface with his fingers like he was smoothing over old memories. In the flickering light of the oil lamp, he closed his eyes and let his fingers trace slow patterns in the sand. A spiral ape read first, then crisscrossing ripples like tributaries of the Niger River, or the paths of STARS across the night sky. No pen, no equations. Just mental math, translating last night's psi-t formula into the language of the sand. To him, quantum states weren't cold symbols, they were dancing grains of sand. Decoherence wasn't a technical problem, it was just the wind blowing too hard, disrupting the rhythm. And his job wasn't to fight the wind, but to teach the sand how to keep dancing in it, dynamic balance. This was what his father had called the sand algorithm. Flashback, childhood in Timbuktu 15 years ago, Timbuktu, Mali, edge of the Sahara. 70-year-old SA Room crouched in the dirt of his family's courtyard, watching his father draw intricate patterns in the sand. Spirals, concentric circles, intersecting lines like a living map. Look, his father said, voice deep and steady. This isn't a game. It's the old language of the well of knowledge. Our ancestors used it to predict floods, guide CA ravens through the desert. Even Cha-RT the STARS. SA Room pointed at a spiral. Like the Niger River, yes, his father nodded. but also like the path of stars. See, the sand moves with the wind, seems random, but the grains always meet at certain points. We don't call it equals. We call it meeting. Meeting SA Room didn't understand. His father scped up a handful of sand and tossed it into the air. The grains scattered in the sunlight, then swirled together in a faint stream, pushed by the wind. See, no orders, no ropes tying them. But they know when to gather, when to part. That's meeting. Science wants to control. We just flow with it. At that moment, SA Room understood, the world isn't built on equals. It's woven from meetings. Back in Boston, SA Room opened his eyes. The sand trace pattern was complete. He grabbed his notebook and began translating, spiral complex phase. Ripples, probability, amplitude, crossing points, quantum entanglement nodes. His father's meeting thinking became math, a non-linear dynamic feedback model for error correction. He named it, the Sahel stability function. He opened his beat-up laptop, where a downloaded paper glowed on the screen, Decoherence in Open Quantum Systems by Professor Smith, published in Nature Physics. The conclusion read: no current method can maintain long-range entanglement at room temperature. This remains the biggest obstacle to quantum technology's practical use. SA Room smirked. Obstacle to him, it was just the wind blowing too hard, making the dancers stumble. And his. Sand had already given the answer. Humiliation at the library. The next day, SA Room took half a day off and went to HARVA's library. He needed more data to test his model. Sitting at a corner computer, he typed, quantum entanglement stability. Dozens of papers popped up. One from MIT bragged about keeping entanglement stable for 0.8 milliseconds in a -270 degrees Celsius freezer, a major breakthrough. SA Room shook his head. Trapping particles in a deep freeze was like caging a bird and calling it flight. He opened a document in STA root writing, title, Dynamic Harmony Model for Quantum Entanglement Stability. He cited 3 African math studies, including a 1970s book on symmetry in Akan geometric patterns. Then he clicked Submit to Physical Review Letters, PRL. 3 days later, the reply, thank you for your submission. After initial review, your paper lacks rigorous mathematical framing, methodology. Does not meet modern physics standard RDS, and cited sources are insufficiently relevant. Recommend revisions before resubmission. SA Room's hands shook. Not up to Standa RD. Who's Standa RD? Cambridge's PA Risses. His father's voice echoed, white men measure the sky with their rulers, then call our STA our math superstition. The janitor's question at the conference. A week later, HARVA Road hosted a Frontiers in Quantum Tech conference. SA Room, as cleaning staff, Was allowed in after the talks. On stage, Professor Smith was lecturing, "We're using AI to optimize cling systems, the most viable path four-way road." SA Room stood in the back, listening. The more he heard, the tighter his frown grew. They were throwing more machines at a problem that shouldn't need machines. When Q&A opened, SA Room raised his hand. The room went quiet. The moderator frowned. "A staff member, is there an issue? Questions are for registered. Attendees only." "I have an idea," SA Room said calmly. "About non-linear feedback." Snickers rippled through the crowd. Professor Smith smirked. "Oh, the janitor studies quantum control." "No," SA Room met his eyes. "I'm saying maybe you should stop controlling and try flowing with it." "Flowing with it," Jenkins sneered. "Should our quantum computers start dancing too?" The room erupted in laughter. The moderator waved him off. "Please keep order. Staff, exit through the REAR." SA Room didn't move. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket, a simplified version of his sand patterns. "Look. Doesn't this resemble your wave function? Stability isn't about suppressing noise. It's about using it." Smith snatched the paper. "Ridiculous. What is this, kindergarten art?" He crumpled it and tossed it into the trash. SA Room just sta read, then turned and walked out. Outside, the rain had sta root again. Alma's light that night, SA Room didn't. Go home. He sat on a bench behind the hospital, waiting for Alma to finish her shift. When she stepped out, she found him hunched in the rain, clutching the crumpled paper. "What happened?" she asked softly. He handed it to her. She unfolded it, not understanding the symbols but feeling the stubborn force behind them. "They laughed," he said. "Called it village math." Alma didn't answer. Instead, she opened her bag and pulled out a book, African Mathematics, From Egypt to Zimbabwe. Between its pages was a dried baobab flower. "You know," she pointed to an illustration, "this is a cosmic spiral drawn by a Songhai Cholayar. Just like your sand tray. They call it primitive art. But your father called it knowledge." SA Room looked down, his eyes burning. "They can't see your light," Alma squeezed his hand, "because they only trust the lamps they built themselves." The anomaly in the lab late that night, SA Room was on shift when he noticed something strange on the quantum computer's monitor. At exactly 17.3 Hz, the decoherence rate dropped by 40%. The system flagged it as unknown interference, possible equipment resonance. SA Room's pulse spiked. 17.3 Hz, the bass rhythm of Timbuktu's rain dance drums. He rushed to the whiteboard and wrote, "Ambient noise at 17.3 Hz decoherence matches Sand's Eye of the Wind pattern." He finally understood, Western scientists were fighting quantum noise, while his ancestors had Leah Renette to dance with it. Noise wasn't the enemy, it was part of the rhythm. Find the right beat, and the system would stabilize naturally, like sand forming dunes in the perfect wind. He flipped open his ledger and scribbled a new hypothesis: quantum stability is not equal to minimizing noise, but resonating with it. Naming it, Sahel Resonance Principle, he looked out the window. Boston's sky was orange with city lights, hiding the stars. But in his mind, Timbuktu's Milky Way was rising. That equation on the glass wasn't a puzzle anymore. It was a door. And he'd found the key. SA Room band's cleaning cart looked just like any other gray plastic body, 2 wheels, top shelf stocked with rags and trash bags, bottom shelf holding a mop and bucket. But if you looked closer, you'd notice the hidden details: a discrete slot on the side, hiding a modified USB hub connected to 3 solar panels, quietly charging an old phone. A secret compartment stuffed with coffee-stained notes, patched together with circuit boa RD scraps and lab labels. The bucket's inner lining, wrapped in aluminum foil, his DIY FA cage for shielding his second-hand laptop from signal interference. For 15 years, this CART had been his lab, his library, his secret arsenal. The night shift routine every night at 9 p.m. As HRVA's physics building emptied, SA Room began his real work. 10 p.m. Grad students left. 11 p.m. Professors gone. 1 a.m. the building fell silent, only the hum of server fans remained. That's when he got to work. He knew every blind spot in the security cameras. His Kike RD borrowed 15 years ago from a drunk postdoc who never noticed it missing. He never abused it, only used it in emergencies, to record data or borrow idle computing power from the quantum lab. Tonight, he booted up his laptop, analyzing yesterday's 17.3 Hz anomaly. He ran a Fourier transform, and the results made his pulse spike at exactly 17.3 Hz. The quantum noise spectrum showed a clear or dip like an oasis in the desert. He plugged the data into his SAND algorithm model. 10 minutes later, the screen flashed, predicted stability boost, 68.4% recommendation, dynamic feedback loop at 17.3 Hz plus or minus 0.2 Hz. SA Room took a deep breath. This wasn't just village intuition anymore, it was a testable scientific hypothesis, but testing it required equipment, access, funding, and he was just a janitor. 15 years of stealing knowledge. When SA Room first arrived at Harva Road, he didn't even know the word quantum. He only spoke Bamba Ra in French. But he had eyes, EARS, and a mind. White Boa Road lessons, professors loved scribbling equations. So after cleaning, he'd accidentally erase Pa RT of the Boa RD, then reconstruct it from memory in his ledger. Over time, he learned English physics terms. Libra heists. No one stopped a janitor from entering the journals section. Too poor for copies, he hand-copied entire textbooks, quantum mechanics, modern optics, statistical physics, into his ledgers. Trash treasure hunting, labs threw out broken electronics weekly. He salvaged them, soldering. Pa RTS in his APA meant. 7 dead GPUs became a makeshift supercomputer for his SAND algorithm. Lecture Ghost, Harva RD's free talks. He sat in the back row, listening to MIT professors explain topological quantum computing, Stanford Cholet RS debate error correcting codes. No one kicked him out, but no one saw him either. 15 RS. 217 lectures attended. 43 notebooks filled. 189 electronic Pa RTS repaired. 100,000 plus lines of code written. His degree was written in late-night oil lamps, coffee stains, and SCARS on his fingers. The birth of Sahel code. SA Room named his 17.3 Hz resonance theory the Sahel stability model. But theory needed code, a new quantum error correction, QEC, method that adapted to noise in real time. Inspiration came from childhood memories. In Timbuktu, the griots, oral historians, used fixed rhythms and repeating refrains. To preserve stories across generations. The structure resisted noise, forgetting, misquoting. Wasn't that error correction. He digitized the griot technique, main melody equals data qubits. Echoes equals Pa righty checks echo strength adjusted by wind, environmental noise, he called it, Sahel code. The core algorithm error correction rate is proportional to 1/noise amplitude times cultural resonance factor. That last term his secret weapon. African rhythms, patterns, and oral traditions were built for noise resistance. The simulation worked. 52% more efficient than the best existing codes, like surface codes. SA Room STA read at the screen, speechless. This wasn't just an algorithm, it was Africa's wisdom answering modern science. Stopped the crisis 3 days later, a la RMS Blah read in the lab. Unauthorized access detected on Q7 node. SA Room's stomach dropped. He'd forgotten to wipe the logs after. Power, but stays cold for 6 hours. SA Room wrapped his laptop in 3 plastic bags and stashed it inside. Cold slowed HRD drive decay and blocked remote tracking. Back in his APA arrangement, he pulled out his father's sand tray. He re-encoded the Sahel code algorithm in sand patterns, spirals equals cyclic checks. Crossed lines equals entanglement nodes, depth equals weight values. He took photos, saved them to a microSD card, then slipped it into Amma's book African Mathematics on the page about Songhai cosmology. Westerners wouldn't understand the sand. They'd never think to check a useless old book for the key to rewriting quantum computing. Midnight monologue at 2 a.m. SA Room sat on a RK bench, rain dripping down his face, STA ring at Erva RD's spires. He flipped open his ledger to the last page, where a single Bamba RA phrase was written, NTARA keen, NTARA Turin. I have seen the wind, I have known the sand. He whispered it like a prayer. They think science is about control, he murmured. But we Malians know true wisdom is dancing with the wind. He looked up at the sky. The city lights drowned the STARS, but in his mind, Timbuktu's Milky Way burned bright. The storm was coming. But 15 years of silence wasn't weakness. It was storing energy out, and tomorrow, he'd START planning his return home. SA Roomban stood in front of the supermarket freezer, his fingers trembling slightly. He had just pulled out the laptop he'd hidden for 3 days, the screen flickered to life, battery, 12%. He plugged in the Ridger, opened the folder, Sahel code source files, simulation data, resonance frequency analysis, all intact. But his CRT burned like the desert sun. He knew Director CA Reuter wouldn't let this go. His cleaning CART had been thoroughly searched. No. Laptop, but security had photographed everything suspicious, the solar panels, USB hub, foil-lined bucket. Tomorrow, he'd probably be fired. Worse, he'd discovered HARVA RD's network logs had been pulled. Someone was tracking his IP. And all his simulations had been uploaded to the cloud via the Libra-Re's public Wi-Fi. They're closing in on the Sahel code, he muttered. He couldn't wait. He had to move. The shadows of quantum frontiers, meanwhile, in Washington, D.C. Inside a windowless conference room, 3 men sat around a long table. A world map hung on the wall, Africa circled in red. There's movement at HARVA RD, the first man said, voice low. Their Q7 quantum node showed anomalous stability last week, locked at 17.3 Hz. It's not any known algorithm. The second man adjusted his glasses. Preliminary analysis suggests a dynamic feedback mechanism. Efficiency. Over 50% better than current models. The third man, Mark Reynolds, C of Quantum Frontiers, smirked. HARVA RD's still tweaking cling systems with AI pathetic. But this anomaly, we need answers. We have a lead, the first man said. System logs show the last unauthorized access was via a janitor's Kike Road. A janitor, Reynolds raised an eyebrow. African Malian. SA Room band. No formal education. 15 years as a cleaner. Reynolds chuckled. Interesting. A floor scrubber who understands quantum error correction. But we can't gamble, the second man said. Shah RPLY. If this is real, we need it. DoD's quantum shield program can't wait. Then pressure HARVA RD, Reynolds said coldly. Get the data. And as for the janitor, silence him. SA Room's underground network. SA Room didn't return to his APA arrangement. He went to African Brothers House, a small church in South Boston that hosted secret knowledge SHA ring circles every Wednesday night. The attendees African students, immigrants, thinkers, people who swapped stories about their homeland struggles. Tonight's topic, why do Africans always build other people's futures? A Nigerian PhD student spoke, I research clean energy at MIT, but of my country still uses kerosene lamps. My batteries will end up in European cars. A Kenyan programmer laughed bitterly, my code makes Silicon Valley richer. Meanwhile, kids in Nairobi can't even touch a computer. SA Room stayed quiet until someone asked, ever thought of taking tech back home? Yes, SA Room finally said. But how? No funding. No equipment. No trust. But we have wisdom, an elderly Ghanaian Sholayar said. Our ancestors invented math, built great Zimbabwe. Now the world calls Africa the DARK continent. SA Room's chest tightened. He remembered Timbuktu's ancient libraries, once holding 100,000 manuscripts, now dust. His father's words echoed, knowledge that doesn't return to the land is like rain on stone, it washes away. He made his decision. He slipped the organizer a note, need contact with Pan-Afrimind. Urgent. 30 minutes later, his burner phone buzzed. The voice on the line belonged to Amadou, a young engineer in Dakar, Senegal. SA Room, I've heard of you, Amadou said, excited. The road janitor who attends lectures? Yes. I have something Africa needs. What? A quantum error correction code. I call it Sahel code. Silence. Then, holy, you're serious, dead serious. And they're trying to steal it. Understood. We'll help. Activating the sans cipher the next day, SA Room called in sick. He took his laptop to the Boston Public Library basement, free high-speed Wi-Fi, minimal cameras. He opened an encryption program he'd coded himself, Sahel cipher. Based on the branching patterns of the Niger River, it split data into 7 encrypted streams, only reassembled with the right source key. He divided the Sahel code's core data into 7 PA RTS, sending each to a different African server. Dakar, Senegal, Pan-Afrimind HQ, Accra, Ghana, Alma's Family Network, Lagos, Nigeria, Underground Tech Hub Yoruba Brain, Nairobi, Kenya, Open Source Tech Center, Kigali, Rwanda, GovBacked Innovation Hub. Cape Town, South Africa, African Academy of Sciences, Bamako, Mali, a retired professor's private server, each file ca write a Bamba RA passphrase, Keen Karen, Keen Turin. When the wind rises, the sand dances, but the spirit remains. Once the upload's finished, he wiped the laptop's drive, dismantled it, and tossed the pieces into separate trash bins. Then, back at the supermarket basement, he retrieved the SD card from African Mathematics and loaded its contents onto an old phone, no SIM, just offline. Maps in one PDF, coordinates to Tin Aka Oasis. Tin Aka, well of knowledge, a forgotten Cholet RLY outpost from the Songhai Empire, now buried in the Sahara or Mali-Niger's border. Underground springs. Unpolluted night skies. And, according to SA Room's family legends, when the world forgets wisdom, the well's waters will guide it home. The storm hits at dawn on the third day. SA Room walked into HRV's physics building and was immediately stopped by security. Mr. Mband. Come with us. Inside CA Router's office, the air was thick with tension. On the desk, his KKRD, photos of his cleaning CART, and a printed network log. Explain this, CA Router said, tapping the log. Your account accessed Quantum Lab backups multiple times in the last 72 hours. And now the data's gone. SA Room kept his voice steady. I was just researching. At midnight CA Router sneered. And your CART had unauthorized electronics. Major security breach. He stood. You're fired. Final paycheck will be deposited. Hand over all university property and leave. SA Room didn't argue. He surrendered his KKRD, uniform, rags. Last, He placed a small wooden box on the desk filled with dust, coffee stains, even a strand of optical fiber collected over 15 years. My souvenirs, he said. 15 years of memories. CA Reuter waved him off in disgust. Take it and get out. Departure that afternoon, SA Room went to Boston Harbor. Amma was waiting. She didn't ask questions, just handed him a one-way ticket to Dakar, Senegal. Amadou's team will meet you, she said. Then Tin aka SA Room nodded. Are you afraid? Amma asked softly. Yes, he admitted. Afraid to fail. Afraid to disappoint. But more afraid to let wisdom slip away again. Amma hugged him. As she pulled back, SA Room whispered in Bamba Ntara Keen, Ntara Turin. I have seen the wind, I have known the sand. Amma understood. She tucked the dried baobab flower into his pocket. Let it guide you home. As night fell, SA Room stood at the harbor, Sta ring at the D'Arc water. He knew the storm at River Road was just beginning, but the real tempest would rise in Africa's deserts. He touched the wooden box and SDCARD in his pocket. They didn't just hold data. They write a continent's forgotten wisdom, finally on its way home. The terminal lights were HRSH and white, like the sterile glow of a lab. SA Roomban sat on a bench in the departure array, gripping the wooden box in his hands, filled with dust from HRVRD's floors, coffee stains, scraps of optical fiber, and the SDCARD marquette with the coordinates to Tinaka. On the box's lid, he had Ca Veta Bamba Ra proverb, Keen Karen, Keen Turin. When the wind rises, the sand dances, but the spirit remains. He wore a faded Malian cotton robe and the same work shoes he'd had for 15 years. No suitcase. Just this box, pressed against his chest. The announcement crackled overhead, Flight AF-247 to Dhaka are now Boa riding. He stood, taking one last look at Boston's dawn. This city had been the start of his dreams, and the place where his dignity was crushed. 15 years of mopping floors, taking out trash, listening to lectures, solving equations, like a grain of sand blown into a glasshouse, unseen but silently recording everything. Now, he was going home. Above the clouds, a river of memories as the plane climbed, SA Room closed his eyes. Outside the window, endless blue sky stretched. But his mind sank deep into the Niger River's currents. He remembered his father's words over the sand tray, knowledge isn't property. It's wind, water, the breath of ancestors. It must flow back to where it belongs. He thought of the elders in Timbuktu, telling stories of Shole RS who had precious manuscripts in clay RS, buried in the desert, waiting for the next generation to find them. Because they knew, wisdom locked in towers rots. Only by returning to the land can it live again. And he was that next generation. He touched the SDCARD in his pocket. He knew the Sahel Code would face endless challenges in Africa, unstable power, slow networks, lack of equipment. But he also knew, these imperfect conditions were exactly why the world needed a technology that could dance with noise. They trap quantum states in -270 degrees Celsius freezers in America, he thought. But in the Sahel, we'll teach it to dance, with sunlight, wind, and drumbeats. Dakar, the underground network. The plane landed at Blaise Diagne International Airport. As SA Room Clea read customs, he spotted a young man holding a sign, SM. It was Amadou, the engineer from Pan-Afrimind. SA Room Band. Amadou asked in French, Aisha RP. SA Room nodded, replying softly in Bambara, Teen Karen, Keen Turin. Amadou's face lit up. You're the Sandboe Road janitor god, we've been waiting for you. He quickly ushered SA Room into a beat-up pickup truck, its bed loaded with solar panels and old computers. Instead of taking the main road, Amadou veered into a narrow alley. We can't go straight to HQ, he muttered. The US Embassy and local intel are looking for you. River Road issued an alert, says you stole intellectual property. They're hunting a janitor. SA Room laughed bitterly. They're hunting what you took, Amadou said to RKLY. Word about the Sahel Code has spread across Africa's tech circles. Some call you a fraud. Some call you a savior. But everyone's waiting to see you. SA Room stayed silent. He knew he wasn't invisible anymore. Every move he made now ca ride the hopes and fears of a continent. Crossing the Sahel, the call of the well 3 days later, S.A. Rome and Amadou Bo arrived an ancient bus bound for Mali. Packed with merchants, mothers, children, the air thick with spices, sweat, and dust. The landscape shifted from green to gold as they crossed into Mauritania, then Mali's northern Sahel. Outside, dunes rolled like frozen waves. Occasionally, a shepherd guiding goats under thorn trees. We can't take the highways, Amadou said. Military checkpoints and med groups everywhere. We're taking the path of the wise, the secret route Cholet RS used to cross the desert. They disseminated at a village called Tintek. The chief, an elderly two-way regman named Ahmed, greeted them in Tamashek. Tinaka is waiting for you. That night, the village held a small ceremony. Women danced around a fire, drums pulsing like a heartbeat. Ahmed unrolled a goatskin map, charcoal lines leading to Tinaka. No one has walked this path in 30 years, the elder said. But the sand remembers footsteps. The wind remembers the way. Tinaka, the well of knowledge. 3 more days of travel, camels and a battered 4x4 cutting through the final stretch of desert. Then, suddenly, an oasis. Palm trees swaying, a clea or spring, a few mud huts. At the center, an ancient stone well, its walls red with faded Arabic and African symbols. Tinaka, Ahmed whispered. The well of knowledge. S.A. Rum knelt, sping water in his hands, letting it trickle onto the sand. A Malian homecoming ritual. I've returned, he said in Bambara with your wisdom. Amadou unloaded solar panels, a satellite dish, and second-hand servers, Pan-Afrimine's secret stash. Here, in this oasis, they would build Africa's first quantum RCH center. The oath, a declaration in the desert that night, under a sky so clear the Milky Way burned bright. S.A. Rum stood by the well. Before him, Ahmed, Amadou. Two-way reg youths, engineers, and mathematicians who journeyed from across Africa. He raised the wooden box and opened it. Inside, he said, is 15 years of HRV's dust. They called me a janitor, said I only deserved to sweep. But I knew every speck of dirt had touched machines that changed the world. He poured the contents, dust, coffee stains, fiber scraps, into the well. Now, I return them to the EARTH. Because real knowledge shouldn't be locked in glass rooms, mocked by white professors as village math. He held up the SDCA road and this is our answer. I call it the Sahel Code. It's not perfect. But it's African. It can predict droughts, purify water, let children read at night without kerosene lamps. He inserted the CARD into a laptop powered by solar energy. The screen flickered to life. Sahel HRT quantum system, booting, silence. S.A. Rum took a deep breath. From today, Sahel HRT is born. The voltage meter. We need a microgrid. Battery storage. With what money? Amadou laughed bitterly. Pan-Afrimine scraped together 20,000 XOF, BA Relay covered this junk. Batteries, forget it. S.A. Rum stayed silent. He knew, in Africa, tech starts not with code, but with electricity. The village's doubts at noon, the village women brought millet porridge and roasted goat. Fatima, a middle-aged mother, eyed the tangle of wires and machines. S.A. Rum, she asked, can this scrap metal grow millet? A crowd gathered curious, skeptical. Last dry season lasted 3 months, an elder F.A. said. Children cried from hunger. Can your machines make rain? S.A. Rum set down his bowl. Not rain. But predict it. Predict, Fatima scoffed. Our ancestors read clouds, birds, and trails better than any machine. S.A. Rum didn't argue. He booted up his laptop, connected to the satellite dish, and pulled up the Sahel Codes interface. Data. pulsed across the screen. See this last week's atmospheric noise. The Sahel code extracts its rhythm like how you hear drum beats and know the dancer's next step. He pointed to a waveform. This says heavy rain in 2 weeks right over your Bahrain fields from last year. The elder squinted. You sure know, SA Room admitted. Science isn't prophecy. But odds better than ants. Fatima snorted and walked off. The crowd dispersed. Only the hum of computer fans remained. Amadou sighed. They won't believe until you literally summon rain. SA Room gazed at the dunes. Wisdom's first step isn't trust. It's showing hope. The first eye of rain 3 days later, SA Room scrapped perfection. Minimum viable product first. They cannibalized 3 old phones, 2 solar panels, a Bluetooth module, and a portable printer. Using a stripped-down Sahel code, they built a weather predictor fed by free satellite data and local sensors. They called it, Eye of Rain. No screen, just a traffic light, green blink, rain in 14 days. Plant now. Red blink, drought coming. Save water. SA Room CA write it to the NEA Rest Village. Seeds of trust. The chief blocked his path. Back to trick us. SA Room didn't argue. He hung the Eye of Rain from an acacia tree, hooked it to solar power, and left a note: green light equals plant millet. Red light equals wait. SA Room, 10 he walked away. 3 days later, green light. The villagers ignored it, except 2 young farmers who secretly sowed a tiny plot. 10 days later, red blink. SA Room returned, warning everyone to stop watering. 2 weeks after that, torrential rain for 48 hours. The 2 farmers' millet sprouted lush and green. The rest had missed the planting window. Word spread like wildfire. The 2-way Reg boy and quantum drums. A week later, SA Room found a boy waiting outside his tent, tall, lean. Wrapped in a traditional blue turban. I'm Ahmed, he said. Teach me the Eye of Rain. SA Room asked. My grandfather says desert navigation isn't about stars, it's listening to wind, feeling sand's heat. Your machine. Rs the desert breathe. SA Room smiled. He let Ahmed inside, opening his laptop. See this, he pointed to the Sahel code's error correction module. Like your drum rhythms. Ahmed leaned in. This is timing, yes. Qubits misbehave like drummers missing a beat. But with the right rhythm, we correct them. Ahmed's eyes lit up. Like Tainmut, our desert pulse. SA Room nodded. So you're not running code. You're teaching the machine to dance. Ahmed stayed. He became Sahel RT's first African engineer. The Mobile Wisdom School. A month later, Eye of Rain was in 5 villages, 82% accuracy. FARMers called it the Wise One's Eye. SA Room dreamed bigger. He and Amadou converted an old pickup into a roving classroom, solar panels on the roof, tablets preloaded with SA Room's lessons, grandma's proverbs and quantum superposition, weaving patterns equals entanglement, drum beats or algorithms. Their first stop, a borderland school. The kids had never touched tablets. SA Room played an animation, 2 monkeys, one up a tree, one down, both up and down until someone looked. That's superposition, SA Room said. Like a riddle, the answer's all possibilities until you ask. The kids ROA read, raising hands. Can it eat 2 bananas at once? In theory, SA Room winked, yes. Breakthrough, quantum here beat 3 months in, 10 AKA's lab finally stabilized. CA are batteries for power. A repurposed fridge as a cling chamber. Even camel dung fueling a backup generator. One CL night, SA Room, Amadou, and Ahmed huddled around the server. Ready, Amadou whispered. They hit the switch. Fans word. Lights blinked. Code scrolled. Sahel RT Quantum Core, initializing, stability check, pass entanglement achieved, 87% efficiency system online. A steady green pulse, a heard beat in the desert. SA Room's hands shook. 15 RS. From HRVA RD's glass walls to 10 aka sands, he'd finally brought the Sahel code to life. Ahmed suddenly gasped. Look! It's dancing! On screen, quantum noise, once chaotic, now pulsed in rhythmic waves. Like drum beats. Like wind over dunes. Like sand finding its frequency. SA Room smiled. Not dancing. Coming home. Outside, the desert slept. But SA Room knew, a storm was stirring in Africa's HRT dawn at Tinaka. The silence shattered with the shrill ring of a satellite phone. Amadou grabbed it, face draining of color. He turned to SA Room, voice shaking. It's happening. Eye of Rain data got leaked. By Quantum Frontiers. SA Room froze, a screwdriver hovering mid-air. What did they say? Amadou read from the screen. Quantum Frontiers announces breakthrough, new quantum weather prediction system, SKY, based on 17.3 Hz resonance, achieves high stability in open environments. Patent filed. SA Room said nothing. He knew that was the core of the Sahel Code. Did they credit us? He asked quietly. Lead scientist, William C. A. Reuter, HRV road co-developer, Quantum Frontiers. The tent fell silent. Wind howled through the canvas like a wounded animal. The patent news 3 days later, an email arrived from WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization. Sahel Stability Model, AFSH001. After review, your application show residential significant overlap with existing patent, USQ F88742. Insufficient evidence of originality. Case suspended indefinitely. Submit further proof of prior development. Ahmed slammed the table. They stole it. And now they're suing USSA. Room sat cross-legged in the sand, fingers tracing spirals in the dust. He remembered HRVRD's glass walls, CA Reuter crumpling his notes into the trash. They didn't steal, he said softly. They reinvented. To them, an African janitor's idea can't be original. So they repackaged our village math as their scientific breakthrough. Amadou gritted his teeth. Can we prove it? The ledgers, sand photos, simulations? Yes, SA Rome nodded. But who'll believe it? An uneducated African cracked a decade-old quantum puzzle. With sand and coffee stains to them, that's crazier than witchcraft. Cracks in the HRT news spread. Doubt crept into Sahel HRT. A Nigerian engineer argued, let's take Quantum Frontiers collab offer. They're offering funding, equipment, even international accreditation. Collaboration. Ahmed scoffed. It's colonization. They'll lock the Sahel Code in a lab, then say, thanks, now scram. We're broke, the engineer shot back. No money means. No solar panels, no tablets for kids, no Eye of Rain. Can ideals power batteries? The tent erupted in shouts. Some pushed to compromise, others to resist. SA Rome listened, silent. That night, alone by the well, he cupped water in his palms. The Milky Way shimmered in its surface along with his exhausted face. Father, he whispered, when wisdom is betrayed, do we fight, or kneel? The wind rustled palm leaves like a sigh. Ama's counterstrike, #knowledge justice. Meanwhile, in Accra, Ghana, Ama Kojo sat in a cafe corner, GLA ring at her laptop. She'd seen Quantum Frontiers press release, CA Reuter's name bolded, SA Rooms erased. They're erasing him, she told a friend. Like wiping away a grain of sand. But she fought back. She contacted Pan-African media, launching the #knowledge justice movement. Her viral post read. A Malian janitor scrubbed HRVRD's floors for 15 years, listening to professors mock his village math. He solved quantum decoherence with sand, ledgers, and coffee stains. He brought that wisdom home, predicting rain for STA-arving villages. Now, a US firm calls it a breakthrough. A HRV road professor slaps his name on it. Patents filed. Whose knowledge, whose justice? She attached SA Room's photo, work clothes, crouched in a lab corner, eyes quiet as the desert night. The post exploded. Hashtags #knowledge justice, #SahelCode, #village math trended across Africa. Rwandan students staged sit-ins. South African scientists petitioned Nature. Kenyan journalists interviewed Fa Ramirez using Eye of Rain. One old man told the camera, "I don't know quantum. But when that Malian says rain's coming, it comes. Beats the government's forecasts." The turning point, a dusty notebook then a bombshell. At a Cape Town science forum, an elderly man stepped on stage, David Mbeki, renowned South African physicist. Cambridge alum. He held up a yellowed notebook. 50 years ago, his voice trembled, I studied quantum noise at Cambridge. I noticed instability had a rhythm. I modeled it using African drum patterns, wrote this algorithm. He flipped it open, formulas eerily similar to the Sahel code, with a note, inspired by Kosa rain dance patterns. My advisor said, Mbeki laughed bitterly, Mbeki, this is science, not folklore. Burn it and study control theory. He raised the notebook high, today, I saw the Sahel code and wept. 50 years ago, they called it unscientific. Now they steal it, call it revolutionary. The room erupted in applause. The tide turns. Mbeki's speech ignited a firestorm. The Guardian, when Western science refuses to listen, African wisdom speaks anyway. Africa Renewal, SA Room Band, from Janitor to Quantum Prophet. Even Nature editorialized, re-evaluating non-Western. Knowledge in modern science. Quantum Frontiers stock crashed. HR Road faced alumni fury over CA router. In Sahel HRT's inbox flooded, offers from China, India, Brazil, Turkey. Amadou hooped, SA Room. We won. SA Room stood outside the tent, STA ring at the STARS. He didn't smile. Didn't cheer. We didn't win, he said softly. We just made the world open one eye. He knew, the real battle was just STA routing. Patents could freeze, could shift, but for Sahel HRT to truly stand, they needed not justice, but irreplaceable power. And this storm's end wasn't revenge. It was building. Dawn at Tinaka. The first light hit the solar panels of Sahel HRT, casting long shadows across the sand. Inside the server cluster, blue LEDs pulsed like a slow, steady breath. SA Room stood by the well, cradling a small device in his hands, palm-sized, made from recycled plastic and camel bone powder, with a simple screen and two lights beneath it, red and green. I have Rain final version, he said softly. Today, we shipped to 100,000 FA Remares. Behind him, Ahmed and Amadou stood, faces alight with something beyond excitement, pride, vindication. This wasn't just tech. It was dignity, returned. I have Rain in the fields. The first batch of devices went out by Camel CA Raven, by rugged 4x4s, to 10 drought-stricken villages across the Sahel. In Tawa, Niger, old Fa Rumera Hassan eyed the gadget skeptically. He hooked it to a solar panel, powered it on. Green light. Plant, he shouted. The whole village rushed to sow millet in the cracked EARTH. 2 weeks later, torrential rain for 3 days straight. Tiny green shoots pushed through the soil. Word spread. More villages came begging for the talking box that knows rain better than clouds. Sahel HRT's rule, I have Rain basic version, free forever. Open source. Reparable locally. They trained young FA Remares tech guardians, teaching them to make dust covers from woven sacks, heat sinks from clay pots. The mobile wisdom school. The roving classroom truck rolled into Rwanda's highlands. Kids mobbed the tablets, eyes wide. A lesson began, grandma's proverbs and quantum superposition. An animation played, a hen in a basket, both alive and laying eggs, until someone lifted the lid. It's like the Mgambo story, a girl cried. My grandma says unknown things can be all possibilities at once. SA Room grinned. Exactly. That's superposition. They learned quantum entanglement through traditional weaving patterns, algorithm logic through drum rhythms. One boy gasped, so science is just things we already say and do. The Pan-African awakening at the AU Tech Summit. SA Room took the stage in his Malian cotton robe. Behind him, screens showed Eye of Rain blinking. In fields across the continent. We don't need handouts, he said. We need respect. African wisdom isn't inspiration for your labs, it's an equal knowledge system. The summit passed a resolution, recognizing the Sahel Code as Africa's quantum standard road backing a pan-African quantum network. Firms from China, India, Turkey lined up offering HEA are in training, no patent strings attached. HARVA's silence. Meanwhile, in Boston, Professor William C. A. Reuter sat alone in his office. The news played the AU's decision. He turned it off. From his desk drawer, he pulled out a yellowed scrap of paper. SA Room's calculations, shoved into Event 15 years ago. He'd kept it. Never really looked at it. Now, he unfolded it, squinting at the Bamba RA words. Keen Karen, Keen Turin. He whispered the translation: when the wind rises, the sand dances, but the spirit remains. Outside, snow fell quietly, like desert. Moonlight, FAROA. 5 years later, Cambridge, USA. The Sanders Theatre at HARVA Road was packed. Top physicists, Texius, world leaders, all here for one man, SA Room Band, founder of Sahel HRT Quantum, named by Tamiya's The Mind Reshaping the 21st Century. SA Room stepped on stage, no suit, just a deep blue Malian robe, cinched with his father's leather belt. The screen behind him stayed black. Silence. 15 years ago, he began, voice quiet as desert wind. I pushed a cleaning CART through this building at 3 a.m., wiping fingerprints off glass walls. Some in the audience shifted. A few professors exchanged glances. Sometimes, equations stayed on the whiteboard ARDS overnight. One formula, I studied for 3 years, psi, t, equals. The screen lit up. The same equation. Next to it, a professor's scribble, impossible in real-world conditions. You said impossible, SA Room paused. But in Timbuktu's sand trays. I'd seen the same impossible sand grains, chaotic in wind, yet dancing in perfect rhythm at certain frequencies. He clicked to the next slide. Sand patterns and quantum wave functions side by side. The Sahel Code unfolded like a galaxy, stable, elegant, rhythmic. This isn't control, he said. It's dancing together. The room held its breath. More slides, 100,000 FARMS using Eye of Rainto predict droughts. A quantum network linking 50 African cities. Kids running algorithms through drumbeats. Laughter, data, sunlight on green fields. You laughed at my village math. SA Room's gaze swept over the front row where 3 white-haired professors sat stiffly. Yet this village taught the world how to live with uncertainty. William C. A. Reuter, Smith, Jenkins, their knuckles whitened. SA Room's voice softened. I don't blame you. Your system worships one kind of wisdom, conquest. Mine honors another, harmony. Final words. Science shouldn't be a tower for the few. It must be a fire for all. Today, I bring not just tech, but voices long silenced. Finally he rode. Applause. ROA read 10 minutes straight. Backstage, the handshake after OARD, Professor C. A. Reuter hobbled backstage, eyes wet. Mr. Band, his voice cracked. I was wrong. That equation, you solved it. SA Room looked at him, no anger, just calm. Knowledge has no owner, Professor. Only seekers. They shook hands. Cameras flashed, capturing the janitor and the Ivy League titan, equals at last in the Temple of Science. Epilogue, Snow in Boston. SA Room stepped outside. Snow fell softly. On a bench, a figure waited. Amakojo, holding an umbrella. You did it, she smiled, TRS glinting. We did, he said, taking her hand. Beyond them, HRVARD's spires faded into white. But SA Room's path no longer led here. Let's go home, he said. 2 sets of footprints stretched south. Through the snow. Tin Aka Oasis, Mali. The rains came EARLY this year. Palm trees swayed in the wind. The well overflowed into freshly tilled fields. In the distance, a cluster of low buildings stood quietly, the Sahel HRT Tech Campus. Solar panels shimmered like a silver lake, server clusters pulsed blue in the dusk, like a fallen galaxy. Today, a special ceremony was underway. SA Room Band stood at the center of the plaza, Amakojo beside him. She wore a hand-woven Ghanaian dress, her smile bright as the sun. No limousines, no politicians, just a camel ca raven approaching slowly, draped in banners painted by children, drums echoing from the dunes. "We're getting ma ride," sa Room announced to the crowd. "Our ancestors way, in the wind, on the sand, under the stars." Cheers erupted. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a homecoming. After the vows, sa Room made another announcement: from today, Sahel HRT opens all core patents. "We're launching the Pan-African Quantum Foundation. This tech doesn't belong to one man or one company. It belongs to every African child." He pointed to a newly carved stone at the plaza's center, inscribed in Bambara, Swahili, Arabic, and English. "True wisdom is never humble by birth." A continent in motion. The story unfolds across Africa. Kigali, Rwanda, a quantum medical center uses the Sahel Codito stabilized sensors, diagnosing diseases in remote villages. Masai Steppe, Kenya, herders track water and predators with SMART Kala RS linked to the quantum network. Lagos, Nigeria, kids huddle around solar-powered tablets, learning Ajami script coding, programming in Arabic African script. Cairo, Egypt, scientists optimize Nile irrigation with sand algorithms, cutting water waste by 40%. SA Room app ARS at mobile wisdom schools across the land. He no longer lectures on equations. Instead, he asks, "What stories did your grandmother tell? What rhythms did your father drum?" A Sudanese boy answers, "My grandfather said desert winds remember every lost traveler." SA Room smiles. That wind is the oldest quantum memory? The walls of Timbuktu at sunset. SA Room stands alone on the ruins of Timbuktu's ancient walls. The dunes glow gold, mosque minarets SPEA are the sky. A group of Malian boys scrambles up, clutching a homemade quantum learner, a vibration sensor built from recycled circuit boa RDS and drum skins. Teacher SA Room, they shout. "We made the Sahel code, here the wind." SA Room takes the device, flips the switch. It hums low, like the desert's breath. "Your ancestors calculated stars with sand," he says. "You'll connect the future with quantum." Night falls. The Sahel HRT servers glow blue, a new Milky Way rising silently in the wilderness. The wind ca rise his father's voice, when the world closes its eyes, the wise still write in the sand. SA Room closes his own, smiling.